What if I told you that right now, while you're listening to this, there's a CFO somewhere uploading their company's financials into ChatGPT before they're released to the public? Or that a healthcare executive just lost their job for using AI tools that their company banned but nobody trained them on? Why? Hey everyone, I'm Ryan Kohler, and this is the Future of Work with AI, the show where we dig into how artificial intelligence is actually changing work. Not just the hype, but the real, messy, human reality of it all. I recently talked with Mahesh Thakur, and this guy has seen AI from every angle. He was one of Microsoft's first AI product managers working directly with Satya Nadella. He's been at Amazon, Inuit, GoDaddy, and now he's advising companies on AI strategy while coaching executives who are, let's be real, making some very expensive mistakes. Here's what we're diving into. Why most organizations are approaching AI like it's 2010 and they're rolling out Salesforce, the 5 mistakes leaders will regret making 3 years from now, and why your biggest AI problem isn't technical, it's human. If you're a leader trying to figure out how to bring AI into your organization without burning it down, or if you're watching your company make decisions about AI without including you in the conversation, this one's for you. Let's dive in.
Man, thank you so much for letting me interview you. Like this is amazing. Like previously at Tesla, like clearly that just throws it all out there, right? But more specifically, like AI think tank, and I think that's an interesting part because I think that it kind of brings up the premise where most orgs are. So maybe you can give us like the little elevator pitch on who you are and where you're from. But I think this like, have we thought this stuff through? Have we brought everybody along? And do we realize this is a marathon, not a sprint? Like we got to kind of like think long term, not just like, oh my gosh, this could be live tomorrow. So maybe like give us a quick intro and let's kind of jump into this.
Sure. So about me, I am from Bombay, India. I am now based here in the Silicon Valley. And between these two locations, a lot has happened.
Right.
I came here to the US, began as an engineer, and later got recruited by Microsoft as one of the first few PMs or product managers to work on Microsoft AI. So I got the first-hand opportunity to work alongside Satya Nadella, presenting to Steve Ballmer, who was a CEO then at Microsoft. And I really had the opportunity not just to embrace AI, but to understand its impact on the business. So Ryan, think about it. One of our biggest competitors at Bing AI was Google, and Google was making money hand over fist. And here we were, despite being Microsoft, struggling to make the first million, 10 million, 100 million, and the first $1 billion in revenues for Microsoft ads. So I had the front row seat in understanding what business metrics to move, not vanity metrics, business metrics, right? So that was the time where I realized that the right advice and the right coaching is so important at the right time. I just didn't have any extra time, and I invested in myself heavily. I hired the best coaches, the best advisors for myself to accelerate, because I made a decision, Ryan, that if I knew, as an example, even today, if I knew what I know today, back in the day, my success would have been 3x more. I would have. So that's the rate at which I want to thrive. And that's possible by having the right advisor, the right coach in the room with me, so that I don't make expensive mistakes, so that I can learn from somebody else's mistakes and accelerate. So after Microsoft, I had this powerful opportunity to work at Amazon. And I have 2 patents which are in my name from the search and AI back in the day. And then after, so that was all Seattle, Microsoft, Amazon. And then I moved here to the Bay Area. In the Bay Area, I had my own startup, and I also became an investor during that same time in several other startups. And I'm involved in a few venture funds since. Beyond that, I worked at Intuit as head of product. And a lot of the experimentation techniques which I learned at Microsoft, I brought into Intuit to expand the QuickBooks Online product globally. We crossed a million customers and then 1.6 million customers for QuickBooks Online. This was the first time the product made it outside of a desktop into an online product, fully available on mobile, on cloud. After that, I became a vice president at GoDaddy, managing a $600 million P&L and a huge global organization. And that was truly an opportunity for me to bring an impact to small and medium businesses. So I could now see that if you are Microsoft, you have access to technology, and you can actually see the ROI on technology or AI But then if you're a small business, not so much, unless you have a big partner. So that was up until 2021. In 2021, I left the corporate world and I went full time into executive coaching. That's because I really love coaching and I love the advisory, AI advisory work that I do. And with time, these two businesses have attracted so many good leaders and organizations into my sphere that I'm really excited to be working with. And as of right now, when I reflect back, I think what my clients get is a perfect combination of both the pragmatic corporate world as well as the real advice that they need given where AI is today. Because like I mentioned, for some of the small and mid companies, Ryan, they couldn't have thought about these technologies being available to them even 3 years ago. But today,
Right.
with that power, there is acceleration. And so if in this moment in time, they made some of the right strategic decisions, they will see a compounding ROI on what they
Right.
compounding return on what they do right now. And that's why my company is called Decisive AI.
Oh, nice. Well, yeah, I want to pull a couple threads on this because I think there's clearly like we could go in a lot of directions, but there's two things that I think you haven't brought up one of them, but as your mastermind group, but I think your story on that very similar to mine, but clearly I'm much more small business kind of founder startup kind of guy. But the same thing of hitting the realization point where you're like, I could have gotten to the right answer faster or potentially to a better answer if I'd had a coach. We'll go with somebody who'd been down the trail before me, who could give me some outsider perspective. And I know you have a mastermind and I'm a member of masterminds. The other flip side of that, if I was around other people, while they may not have solved all my problems, but going through similar problems that we could all share ideas together, that idea of collaborating outside of your org, of getting knowledge and like context from outside of your specific area, I think is probably one of the more overlooked ways to deal with AI right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because when you're dealing with AI, or even for that matter, a non-trivial thing such as privacy, it always helps to understand what some of the other organizations are doing. While we don't want to get into confidential or proprietary stuff, there's always best practices that could be shared. There is always frameworks that people can lean on. And
Mhm.
once you um, open up yourself to learning more and showing more of your vulnerable side, magic can unfold.
Well, and I think that's one where let's say it was privacy or web technology, or we both have been around as like we've gone from like internet to like mobile, and mobile left a public footprint. You could go look and see where industry adoption was by taking your mobile phone out and messing around with your competitors' sites. You could see, in the early days, like, are they using Flash or what technology are they using? Even their privacy, you could look at their privacy policies and kind of index. But with AI, especially behind the scenes AI, like collaborative intelligence with sales, with support, with marketing, with those things, it leaves no telltale signs that one org is using it and using it great or struggling with it. You have no clue. You have no index against are we ahead? Are we behind? Are we even doing it the right way? Like if you're inside an org right now and you're doing your thing, if you think you're great, I bet you aren't. And if you think you're terrible and everybody's leaving you behind, probably you're not right about that either. Probably a lot of people are struggling. And that's what I see as I talk to people is a complete lack of the ability to index on where are we at versus where are the best people versus where are the worst people. Like there's just no index unless you're around people.
That is so true. That is so true. We don't have, to your point, this is not a web archive where you can go back and see what your website was like or what your privacy policy was or what your EULA was and user license agreement back in the day. These are some real time uh, these are some realistic areas which never got archived. Like you said, the efficiency of your sales organization or the processes used by your engineering work, or what were some of the SLAs that your CIO had for the rest of the organization before the before the outage and after the outage.
Right.
You don't have that. You don't have that publicly documented, and your private documents sometimes get archived and then they never get pulled up. So being around the right people, right time, allows you to not only learn, but also leverage that information in a way where it could benefit you and benefit the organization. And avoid, most importantly, avoid some of the costly mistakes.
Yeah. And I think across the board, if you're in Silicon Valley, like I mean, literally you can go to a coffee shop and say AI out loud and everybody's gonna turn. And you're like, okay, now could I, have that conversation? If you have a great coach or bring in a consultant, same thing. You have visibility that they don't. Even if you've consulted with 3 companies, you have 3 times the visibility that your client has because they just have their own, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I just got back. If you're small and you say, "Well, I can't afford that. That's like too expensive." I wouldn't know if you're in Wichita, right? You're in the middle of America. I'm in Utah, St. George, Utah, not even Silicon Slopes. But yet I work out of a co-working space. One of the main reasons is because I can walk outside at snack time and strike up an AI conversation and hear what other people are doing with it just to expand my context of possibility in like 15 minutes on a random Tuesday. And I think most people are missing that if you're sitting at home or you're sitting even in your corporate office and you're not even sharing across department what's working.
So true. So true. The more you are on the top, the lonelier it gets. And the more isolated you are right now, the worse it will be for you. The impact of isolation will not be felt immediately, but it just catches up with you, and it's going to be bad because then you find out one day that the world, your peers, some other organization has moved far ahead in terms of their knowledge and their decision making. And so, to your point, absolutely, if you are isolated or if you're feeling lonely, it's a very strong signal. You need to get out, you need to listen to other people, and you need to collaborate, start collaborating.
So I have a few mistakes I've seen, but maybe let's take a minute and be like, imagine we're 3 years from now. What if you look back, will be like, hey, here's 5 mistakes organizations made or leaders made that could have solved this like implementation of AI or integration into their teams. And I know that's a huge question, but like if you just come up with 5, what are they?
The number one thing would be team alignment.
Uh-huh.
The number two thing would be trust, because AI can actually erode trust faster than we can imagine.
Right.
Number three would be understanding what are the key metrics versus the vanity metrics. Okay. So there's the fourth one actually would be making the choices along with the team, because today there are so many moving parts, whether it is the user experience, the product, picking the right API set, going down to the infrastructure, going further down to the GPU level. There are so many choices which all have different varied degrees of complexity, Ryan. So
Mhm.
bringing everybody together and aligning on those choices, even though it may sound democratic, the point is you're making a decision on behalf of maybe the ML ops team. You're making a decision on behalf of the customer success team. If they are not involved, they're not going to own your solution, and it's going to backfire 1, 2, or 3 years later. Okay?
Yeah.
Last but not the least is the partners and the advisors you choose. If you don't have the right partners and advisors, then everybody's going to try to sell you everything and create this FOMO for you, where you're just signing on everything that says future AI, future of workforce, whatever. And that's where people I've known, or people who've come to me after they've lost hundreds or even perhaps over $1 billion investing in initiatives which led to nothing. And the worst part is they wasted months and years in directions which were useless. So it's not just wasting time and money. It's a wasted opportunity, because that's how far their competitors got, who actually got it right. So the last one is very important for the people, because this is not just a technology adoption. This is absolutely the difference between the winners and the losers. 3 years out, there's going to the gap has widened between winners and losers. So that's where
Yeah.
the one becomes
And
so.
I believe 3 years out, it will be very difficult for the people who got it right to hide that they nailed it. Like 2 years out, they can still kind of obscure it, and you're like, man, I don't get why. Because almost every competitive environment, somebody's going to figure out the unlock, and they're going to have a decision, and the decision is going to be Should we maintain our price and just have crazy profits to reinvest? Or should we lower the price and land grab? And clearly, if you lowered your price to something that appeared unsustainable, you'd be like, okay, either those guys got a bunch of venture capital or they figured something out. But 3 years from now, it's going to be like, okay, they destroyed us. And it may be, surprisingly enough, the people you didn't expect. So for me, if I look through all of those things, I can like come up with a lot of the answers. The very first one for me is agile. Like this sounds like agile. Like, hey, who has the voice of the user? Who has the voice of the customer? How are you mapping this out and thinking thoughtfully and then breaking it into small iterative steps to validate this will work? And it's almost like we threw AI at our tech teams to solve without the business intelligence, added no product manager to the mix, and just went full tilt of like, and we want it tomorrow. Because that sounds like a recipe for we didn't bring our team along. IT folks and engineers tend to not be product managers. They tend to not bring in the voice of the customer. They a lot of times will lose the nuance. There's a lot of nuance in how one marketing team works versus the other. There's a lot of nuance in what your customer expects. There's a lot of psychology that is not easily summed up with tech, right?
So true. So true.
And
Exactly.
that psychology of, hey, we didn't have the right people in the room. Well, because we didn't think we needed customer services mindset on this. Okay, well, either we missed it, like we missed their actual knowledge, or we missed alignment with bringing them in, or third, well, that means they're not very helpful with giving us feedback as we roll this out because we just ignored. All of those are psychology things, right or wrong. You still have humans, and the same with your customer. We didn't bring them along. Like the big conversation today here was, hey, are humans ready to call into an AI bot on the phone? And one part of the world is saying, let's fake it. Let's make them think it's human. And the other part of the world, like me, is like, let's tell them, hey, it's AI. And let's use some human psychology here of saying, hey, I'm an AI bot. I was trained to do this. At any point, you could talk to a human, but will you give me a chance? Like, give me a chance. Talk to me and let me show that I can make this work. That is human sales 101 of getting permission to move forward. And most tech people have never done that on a real call. So they wouldn't build a bot to do that.
Exactly. Most tech people are not going to be working like that. And so you cannot, the same way you cannot uh, humanize everything. There are some parts in which you're like, it's better handled by automation, by machines. Same thing, you cannot just give everything to a bot or to automation. There's always there always has to be a balance. So I think, Ryan, to your point, product management is essential. Voice of customer is essential because both these parties, at their deepest, at their core level, bring out customer empathy. If you cannot understand and empathize with your customers, you cannot build good products. If you do not build good products, the business is not going to go anywhere. You cannot attract customers, even if you end up attracting them with good deals or whatever hooks you have, you cannot retain them. Okay.
Yep.
So when you go deeper into the psychology aspect, it first starts with the user psychology, customer psychology. And once that is addressed, then you start to get into, well, how do we graduate them? Because it's never about just solving their current needs. Now you want to graduate them into, okay, I've catered to these needs of yours. What happens next? Where are you as a customer or as a business owner or as an enterprise going to have your next set of challenges? Just like when we have kids, their
Right.
needs and demands when they are first born is very different from when they are 5 years, from when they are 10 years. You got to really understand that because once you understand that about your customers, you're going deeper, deeper, deeper into their needs, into their pain points, and you continue to solve that. That's where the magic of good voice of customer, good product management comes in. And when that is combined with the right engineering forces, magic can unfold. So at that point, AI or any automation is not the end, it's the means to the end. The means to the end is still launching, let's say, a product that goes viral, product that has the best NPS, a product that has the best retention rate. So some examples that you and I can relate to are Netflix. It has some of the best customer satisfaction score. Microsoft Office 365, always the NPS has been high 60s, even 70s. That's because there's so much rigor in every part of the product. Every aspect of the product is really gone through a lot of thinking, a lot of rigor. Starbucks, from ordering in the app to actually picking up in store, every aspect of the product has been thought through. Those products which have a meticulous lens at user experience, they have the deepest level of empathies. And even though Starbucks can put a bunch of bots, it's going to remove that. It may, automate things. It may improve things for them. It may save the cost. But are people really ready to pick their coffee from the bots who made it? Not really. Is the human interaction, the human element important still in that coffee pickup? Hell yeah.
Yeah, and
Chipotle.
100%. And I think if they keep that, the customer one is easy for us to talk about and hard to stick to, right? Where it's like, but keep coming back to that customer being the core focal point of going, hey, we're going to automate around these human touch points to enable our baristas to do a little more chit chat while this is happening, not to get rid of the barista, but we jump all the way to a robot is dispensing coffee instead of saying, hey, what makes Starbucks Starbucks? Or we have Dutch Bros here, which is way out there as far as on customer experience of going, hey, we can automate the manual order process or the mobile order process is awesome. That gives the barista more time to chat with you and make a human connection, not to get rid of the barista.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
so if we take your premise, which is awesome, I love it. Now just switch out a couple things, and I think it exposes where our current problem is. If you remove customer for employee and you remove product for AI implemented into our processes, you will suddenly expose all the problems. If you think internally and you're like, hey, we want to bring in AI and make it part of our sales process, the sales rep is the customer, they're the user. They're about ready to internally use this tool that you're developing and designing. Are you gathering user stories? Are you treating them like a user? Are they right at all? Are you mapping out that user journey and saying, okay, if we build this tool, where will they be next? What will happen next? What new problems? If you think about it that way and say our internal tool adoption is the product and the internal user is the customer, you'll suddenly see all the flaws in execution of almost every internal AI tool right now. Because you're like, there's no product manager. Nobody treats the user like the customer. Nobody's casting a vision. Nobody's asking, how will this harm them? What will they feel? Will they reject this? Will they leave us for a new company? Like nobody's thinking about it, or very few people are thinking about the experience of an employee as this gets integrated and progressing them up to a better experience. We're just like, now they're employees. We pay them tough. They're not the customer.
Exactly. I mean, you know what? That happens when you have the highest level of regard and highest level of respect and highest level of empathy for your employees. And I think somebody said it right. If you take great care of your employees, they'll take great care of your customers. Right?
So, why do you think that's such a challenge right now from a leadership standpoint to kind of aim back at the team being the customer of these internal integrations and to run that flow? Is it just we haven't done something like that? Is it we just don't have the right vision? We don't know what we don't know? Is it just AI instantly triggers this is tech? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I could break it down into three parts, and this is the kind of stuff I do at the workshops that I do with the C-suite. I work with the CEOs, CHROs, CFOs, CTOs, and CIOs to first align with what in the world are you trying to achieve with AI. So the first problem that I come across is these people have been sounding very ambitious in their employee all hands and their quarterly business reviews. They've been sounding very ambitious and they've been portraying things or projecting things, which employees go, wait a minute, how is that even possible? Or even worse, sometimes employees start to question, like, if that comes in, am I really needed? Is my team going to half in size? So that's the first challenge that I help them overcome in my workshops, to become very clear that what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to gain more market share? Are you trying to get more customers? Are you trying to make your products better? Get specific. Get
Mhm.
specific. So when they do that, then we go to the next step, which is which metrics are going to help us accelerate and make those metrics available company wide, not just to this team or this C suite level, company wide. And then the third part comes in where we get very specific on the how. Sometimes the how may be different to the product team compared to the how for the data and analytics team, and for what the how could be for the global expansion team. So we get specific on, well, if we apply this new piece of technology in this way, are all the regions ready to accept? If not, let's understand the friction points. As they do that, Ryan, the one thing that I also bring to the companies is the test and learn culture, where I remind them that you got to have a deep level of humility to accept that we don't know all the answers, and that no, we're not going to put 30% of our annual revenue into some random AI bucket. That's not the strategy I suggest. That's where my clients save tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars by cutting back on random investments and actually taking the time to methodically learn the test plus learn culture. Make the test plus learn culture a part of their rhythm, because when that happens, the whole company can not only see how AI is being approached or a new technology is being embraced, but now that framework becomes extensible in all parts of the organization. So that lends itself both clarity and trust, with which you start to observe a much higher return on your AI or any kind of technological spend.
So let's unpack those two because I have 100% agreement with you. Those first 3 points are like, can you get a clear vision of where you want to go, what success and failure looks like, and are we going to know when we get there? Which I think most organizations um, don't. Like, especially with AI comes in and it suddenly breaks everything. We're like, we don't know what we don't know. We don't use it enough to actually understand where this could go. We have no visibility in how everybody else is using it. Like some YouTube video said that we could do X, so I guess we can do X, right? That second one, though, I think if you're in the tech world, like you and I have been, we know what test and learn looks like. But if you're not in the tech world, like, well, I have my definition, but like, what does that look like on it? If somebody tries to implement that in a department, what does that mean? Like specifically, how would I know that we've nailed that?
That's a great question, Ryan. And thankfully, you don't have to be in tech to do that, right?
Yeah,
So it's basically at the heart of it, it's truly defining what the problem is, and it's truly defining what the solution is. And from that, you create what would be the metric to measure the success of it. If that metric is something that you've reached or the threshold is reached, you basically say that the test has succeeded.
Mhm.
Said another way, this is basically an experiment that you're running by clearly articulating the hypothesis. A hypothesis could be a pass or a fail.
Right.
Okay? And the pass is where you celebrate and you now go all in. Instead of 5%, you now go all in with 100% of your resources or traffic or customers, what have you. If it's a fail, you make it a public celebration, because it's not a failure. It's an opportunity for everybody to learn that it's a mistake that we made, but thank goodness we only exposed 1 or 2 or 5% of our resources or traffic or customers. But this is
Right.
a very important lesson, so that when we design the future tests or when we create the future hypotheses, is going to keep this learning already in mind, and hopefully we will not make the same or similar mistake down the road.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of again built into like growth hacking culture. It's built in kind of by default into some of the ways that we've done tech in the past, but it isn't required. Like you can run all the same stuff if you were a marketer at a credit union. There's nothing about AI that like is so special. I think it's that it's faster and we're able to run these tests quicker. But if you decided that Facebook was a place to run ads, you could have run the same exact culture and said, so we came up with a hypothesis that it's ad A or ad B, and we ran these ads for a deliberate period of time, and we knew how we'd test if it would work. And we ran those cycles so that we failed smaller and got this, and especially what you brought up, exposing the test, both win and loss, of not, oh, this was a bad one, but this is what happened, so we are going to try this next, is really a pretty easy culture. Like, this isn't hard unless your leaders have never done it, unless you've built a culture around big initiatives and the people managing the biggest initiatives with the biggest budgets are the most important. And so there may be some inertia in that. For me, I just want to kind of chime in. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. So for us, if you get down to the ground level, what we've found this looks like is right now, 90% of all the employees are using ChatGPT, probably in their own account, probably not in a team account, probably in a free account. It's a mess. And if from a corporate standpoint, like, we think about it from a security leak problem, but maybe think about this also from a work product leak problem. If that employee quits, they leave with all their work product that they did in ChatGPT, and you didn't even know that's what they were doing. They could have totally changed your process to a new process, and they left with it. So just if you're at that stage, but so for us, we look at it from the very ground up and say, we need to have an honest conversation about ChatGPT at work. And by that, I mean, let's survey the team and say, what do you use it for? What has it worked for? What has it not worked for? And throw that up on the board so everybody can see, holy crap, we have made progress here, but not there. The average organization has never asked those questions. And so it instantly surfaces it. And then step 2 for us is like, let's have a training so we all have the same lingo and concepts for contextual knowledge base and how you design a prompt and how you build a back and forth interaction and how you structure output. So that as a team, we know this, like, content comes in, context comes in, we run this back and forth, here's an output, so that we can all talk the same. And then the final part is, which sounds like kindergarten, but it's like show and tell. Like, you get the team together and you're like, hey, this is really easy. At the beginning of every meeting, you say, what's the coolest prompt somebody's ran this week, regardless of what the meeting is? What's the coolest way you've used ChatGPT, inside or outside? Could be a personal thing. Cool. Right. What prompt did you use? Why did you do that? And you will instantly see you've brought the prompts out of the shadows. We're all talking about it the same way. We suddenly realize that Sally in accounting has figured out some way to read contracts, extract data, and run some analysis against it. And if I have something like that, I should ask her, like, how'd you do that? It instantly surfaces. I think the last part, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because we're both from the tech world. The goal for me in an org is to get my user employees to realize they can become creators of tools. That's my big unlock for most people, is when they go from, I used ChatGPT with a prompt and it gave me an answer, to I built a GBT, oh my gosh, I can build a repeatable tool. I'm not dependent on tech people building me tools. I can design, while imperfect, won't work at scale. I can build my own tool to collaborate with. It unlocks our teams to go, oh my gosh, what other tool could I build, or could I map out, or could I test and validate to then have turned into something else?
Ryan, you are only limited by your imagination. The place and time we are in, even Moore's law seems outdated now.
Yeah.
If
Because
you
what is it?
think
We're doubling every, I think it's like 5.9 months or something in AI.
something like that,
Right?
something like that. So for the humans, it's about keeping up. At the same time, if you know how to unlock ethically, it's going to take your organization in the right direction. You mess with this, you not only mess with your organization, but also with your own career and your own teams. Okay. So when you start to think about your organization and ways to unlock, some of the work that I've done with organizations is I've gotten them in the same room to first open up on all potential tools that they've been using, regardless. I told them not to mention where because we didn't want to cause that chaos, but we just said, hey, have you been using ChatGPT or Perplexity? Is it Gemini or Claude by Anthropic? Which one? Let's start to talk about your favorites. And turns out, depending on your role or function, Ryan, you may be using different tools.
Mm-hmm.
45 to 50% of the code, actually, 45 to 50% of the queries that Claude by Anthropic receives are all from engineers for writing and or verifying their code. Okay.
Right.
It's a very different use case compared to a marketer using a chat GPT to generate the most effective email campaigns. Okay. Compared to a financial analyst who may be using Copilot within Excel to actually make their pivot table or rewrite their pivot tables easily. So when I do my offsite, I sort of help them become tool agnostic because I don't want them to come in with their own favorites, which can sometimes restrict the use cases. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, I tie them back to only one thing. Which one of these implementation and or usage is going to make you more productive and help your products become more innovative? Because both productivity and innovation will lead to ROI, which is the return on the investment. So my advisory work is tied more to the outcomes while making sure they do not do anything that compromises the security or the data of the organization. While they can remain ethical, while they use the tools on the platforms given to them, how is it that they can achieve the outcomes? So that's where some of the power unlocks. That's where some of the value is delivered. And that's where I think the human capabilities and imagination then get fully unlocked by the right place, right tool, right time, and more importantly, the right collaboration with several humans and several agents, if you will, coming together to unlock greatness for the organization and finally leading to ROI.
Right. And I love what you just said because I think it's really important that it does a bunch of stuff that, hey, there's the right tool for the right job, maybe role level or department level. That opens up, if you do it that way, it opens up as an org. Hey, we actually are respecting you as employees that you've been testing and figuring this out.
Mhm.
We're surfacing your opinion because it matters. Most, at least in the SMB space, so like let's say 20 to even a couple thousand employees, have taken the opposite of that approach. The CEO, COO comes in and goes, oh my gosh, we heard about AI. We got to be using this. It's going to work great. We give it to our IT guy, or heaven forbid, a committee, which doesn't work any better than the IT person. And they go to setting the next 6 months of picking one tool to rule them all across the entire organization without talking to anybody. Literally.
Yeah, without talking, that's the best part. It's confidential. It's
Yeah.
the research is
Yeah.
confidential.
They
Right.
come back and they're like, we have decided we are locking out all usage of Claude and ChatGPT. We are only using Copilot, but you don't have paid logins for it, so it probably doesn't matter that much anyway. And we don't know how to train you on how to use it in your own areas because we don't even know what you'd use it for because we didn't ask what you're using it for right now. That
Yes.
storyline, I've
That
heard,
is pretty wild.
that is my 99% storyline right now. That was the route. The other route is similar to what you said, but without connecting it together. Utter free for all with nobody in charge. So these are my two current
Two
storylines.
extremes.
Yeah, two extremes.
Two extremes.
Everybody's
Right.
doing what they want. It's don't ask, don't tell because you might get in trouble. Nobody is taking the lead on pulling this up and having a broad conversation and setting like the tone for use the right tool, but lock it down, all those things. It's just a free for all. And usually that's that the leaders probably are using generative AI less than their receptionists. They don't actually fundamentally use it themselves enough to know. So it's really hard to have a conversation as a leader about something that all your employees are smarter than you at. It requires a very high level of humility and a lot of political savvy to walk into a room of your team where you don't do their job on a daily basis and maybe haven't done it in a long time, but now you don't even know the first thing about the tool they're using, and uh, it's going to expose you as not knowing this tech. And I
Exactly.
think a lot of those people on that side where nobody's in charge, it's because they don't feel confident walking in going, hey, I've never used this tool, but we got to figure it out. We got to like collectively bring this up, and you're going to ask me to make decisions and cast a vision about a tool that I've used it to ask where I want to go on my trip. I haven't actually used it in a process to read an email and rewrite it. And I haven't actually designed I don't even know what a GPT is. I have no clue how these things work. But those are the two that I'm seeing. I'm sure as you work with a lot bigger organizations, there's some extra ones of that. But
Yeah.
those are two mistakes I'm seeing a ton of.
No, I think those two extremes are still there. They are still prominent. And I will tell you that I'll tell you a story. This is something that happened recently. The one extreme where you said, you know what, people are just going to ban those tools across the board. So that actually was done by one of the largest healthcare organizations. And when they did that, guess what? One of their chief one of their C-suite person was still using GPT on the side, and they accidentally ended up uploading some very important documents into GPT. So the next thing you know, they got an email from HR, they got in trouble, and they lost their job. This is a person who served the company for a long, long time. They were in a very strategic and a very influential role. And this kind of extreme step by the company, not letting the employees do this, also caused this problem. So guess what? Who's to blame now? And it's still a problem because this person who thinks they did nothing wrong, but the company thinks they did everything wrong because there was a policy in place. Now, how do you trust the person who wrote the policy? So somebody who was isolated from the organization wrote these policy. Let's
Mhm.
just even assume for a minute that those documents were confidential. In that case, the C-level person was not trained enough to understand, and whatever happened was happening or did happen for the right reason. Having said that, Ryan, when you think about the broader picture, the ability for organizations to get people together and align on tools in and of itself is a huge responsibility that they carry. So that is why, they need a neutral party, just like you or me in a room with them. So Ryan, let's say when I go into a room, the marketing organization is not looking at me going, oh, he's the CTO, so he's only going to talk about tools which work for engineers. Or
Mhm.
conversely, oh, he's part of marketing, so all he's going to care about Chat GPT and not mention a single tool that's going to help the researchers in the organization. So I'm a neutral party. I can facilitate a dialogue and I can bring alignment, whether it is with tools, whether it is with what kind of usage the tool should be used for, and finally, what is it that we store within the organization versus sending it outside. So that's where the role of a neutral party, being inside a room, which is all different people with different tools and different expectations, is coming in. Again, it is both critical to maintain the right control of your IP of your artifact, so you cannot just randomly upload it. At the same time, signaling to your employees that guys, you're risking everything, including the company. Because I've known a CFO uploading their financials into AI before they were released to public. This is a
Right.
large public organization.
Yeah.
You can imagine the extent of damage, both reputational damage as well as the employees who completely lost trust on the C-suite because this is the the CFO doing this in the company. You can only imagine. So that's where a lot of training comes in, but training without alignment goes nowhere. You got to
Yep.
start with clarity, you got to start with alignment, then train them on, well, this is what we've agreed, this is how we're going to use, and the right usage is going to help us accelerate.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a good I know that we're right at our time gap. That is a real if you think about the balanced approach on this, like you it is we are facing equal existential risks, both from the org and the leadership and the employee, meaning we did nothing. We went too slow. We didn't get in front of it, like both, like we fell behind or we caused a legal problem, or we went too fast in the wrong direction. Like we went all in and messed it up. Either of those say we need to find in the middle where we set a really great vision, where we include everybody and bring it in, and where we can find some balance, like the balance of security and progression, the balance of like, hey, getting some cohesiveness of tools but not so strict that we force everybody into a bad tool. And I like what you said about that independent party. Some organizations do have that independent voice with enough vision, maybe. but you still have an outsider like you or me doesn't just bring the lack of bias, meaning like we don't have a bias towards IT, we don't have a bias towards legal, and that's where a lot of even the committees struggle. Get a committee of 6 people together, they can't move forward because they each have their bias in tech bias, legal bias, finance bias, all these lenses that they're viewing what's happening through. But an independent party that comes in doesn't just have like this, hey, I just want to figure out how we make this work right so that you guys can progress, but also has context. This is what worked in other places. These are what your natural reactions might be because I've heard them before. I know where that pushback's coming from. I've heard it before, and here's what it looks like. And so, yeah, I would say kind of the one takeaway from this as we stitch up right now, if you want to solve for this in the future, you're going to have to get around third parties, like just third party being a consultant, third party being a coach, third party being in a mastermind group. Like you got to broaden your context about what's going on, because if you're just in your own little zone, like you're most likely going to mess up.
Yes. And that mess up can cost you your business, your customers, your career. There is a lot at stake.
Yeah,
And this is technology. If you put this to the right use, yes, there is hard work needed, there is clarity, there is alignment. And once you get that, once you put this to the right use, that's where the true unlock happens. So again, it's two extremes. You can either
right.
burn with this, or you can actually be a winner 2, 3 years out. You can have even your competitors' market share if you did something right today.
Well, Mahesh, thank you so much. This has been amazing. If you want to contact Mahesh, check into the description. We'll make sure that his access as far as LinkedIn and his website is available for you. But man, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for having me on your show. It's been a pleasure connecting with you and have this riveting conversation with you.
Great.
Man, that conversation with Mahesh really hit home, didn't it? Here's what I want you to walk away with. First, if your organization is either banning AI tools completely or letting everyone run wild with them, you're setting yourself up for problems. The magic happens in the middle with clear vision, team alignment, and that test and learn culture Mahesh talked about. Second, stop making AI decisions in isolation. Whether you're a CEO or you're 3 levels down, get around other people who are wrestling with this stuff. Join a mastermind, hire a coach, find a co-working space, whatever it takes to get outside your bubble. And third, this is huge to treat your employees like customers of your internal AI tools. Ask them what they're already using, what's working, what isn't. Run user stories, because if you're not bringing them along on this journey, you're going to lose them, and probably your competitive edge too. Mahesh is doing incredible work helping organizations navigate this transition the right way. You can find him at Decisive AI, and I'll put his LinkedIn and website in the show notes. If this episode got you thinking, do me a favor, share it with one person in your organization who needs to hear this conversation. I'm Ryan Kohler. Thanks for listening to The Future of Work with AI.